What's up, guys? It's Will here, back again. And today we're here to do something very important, and that is to count down the 13 very best Hot Toys collectibles that will never be made. Now, these are collectibles that have been teased or outright shown at a Comic-Con such as San Diego Comic-Con or some sort of other convention, or maybe shown on social media in some way. And I really just don't want to waste any time because there are 13 really exciting collectibles here that I'm kind of disappointed were never made, never put into production. But nonetheless, guys, make sure to like the video before we get started, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and make sure to click that notification bell so you're notified when content goes live here, reviews, live streams, videos like these, helpful guides, tips, everything you would want from 1/6 scale and statue collecting can be found here. That said, number 13, we're actually going to do two things here with number 13. We're going to do the BVS Batmobile and the Pattinson Batmobile, the Pattinson Batmobile. We're going to do both of those. What's interesting about the BVS Dawn of Justice Batmobile is that Hot Toys posted a video on their official YouTube page showcasing the features of this Batmobile and the item itself in 1/6 scale glory, and then decided to never release it to collectors. Now, there is a Jazz Inc. version out there that a lot of collectors picked up. It had a Zack Snyder signature for some versions of the collectible, from my understanding. But for me, I think this ship has sailed, right? They're still making BVS Batman 2.0s and Armored Batman and stuff like that. But I think the act of making a Batmobile would be a little bit silly at this point, considering, of course, the franchise is now changing over to James Gunn's DCE universe, and Batfleck is no more. I don't think we're going to see Ben Affleck in a Batsuit anytime soon. And Hot Toys showed all this stuff with functional doors and a Gatling gun and light up functions and all this cool stuff, detachable hooks, that would never see the light of day. And that's really unfortunate because, again, the Batmobile is a really iconic vehicle, obviously one of the most iconic vehicles ever. And a lot of people really love Batfleck as Batman. So Ben Affleck was great in the role. I'm not the biggest BVS Superman film fan, but I think at the end of the day, Batfleck was pretty great. And it would have been cool to get this Batmobile for a lot of collectors. Nonetheless, I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. And I think that's why, ends up at number 13 on the list. And we got to move over to the Pattinson Batmobile. This is actually one of my favorite Batmobiles. I'm still always going to be a simp for the Tumbler. The Tumbler and the Dark Knight in general, and Christian Bale as Batman is always going to be my favorite. But I really did like this iteration of the Batmobile, and Hot Toys teased it and then decided to never put it into production. Of course, once again, you have a Jazz Inc. alternative out there that you can pick up. I'm sure you can still find it, maybe secondary market or something along those lines. But Hot Toys decided to never put this guy into production. They did make the Bat Cycle, but never the Batmobile. So you have two different, Batmobiles here that were teased and never put into production. I find that very unfortunate. So at number 12, we have the fifth brother and fourth sister. So these are inquisitors that are, at least in this iteration, seen in the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus TV series. And a lot of collectors got really excited about these because they were actually put up on the Sideshow Coming Soon page. So collectors thought, okay, maybe these two are going to go up for PO sometime soon. And I don't think they would have been super expensive figures to produce. I think they would have been a little bit niche in terms of what type of collectors would PO them. Again, the show wasn't that well received, but there are a lot of diehard Star Wars fans who know these characters outside of just the Kenobi series, and I think they could have served a representation in that way. Nonetheless, these figures have not seen the light of day at all, and of course now we have an incomplete lineup, I guess you could say, because you have the Grand Inquisitor, you have Reva, those two are made, you have Darth Vader battle damage or clean if you got the deluxe version, and of course you don't have the full team here. Now, to me, these are not figures that I would have been interested in, but I can't deny that they look pretty cool. They look pretty badass as a squad. This is squad goals right here, despite the show being very underwhelming, and I do think these would have made a lot of collectors very happy. I know these characters appear in other properties. I'm not sure if it's Rebels or Clone Wars. Again, I'm not the biggest animated Star Wars guy, but I do know a lot of diehard Star Wars fans would have been pretty excited about these too. Nonetheless, I would not at all expect them to see the light of day anytime soon. However, you never know. I mean, Kit Fisto was in the graveyard for many years, and he eventually emerged victorious and went up for PO and became one of the best sellers from my recollection. So maybe these will see the light of day, but fifth brother and fourth sister, not feeling too good about their odds. And at number 11, we have the Hot Toys Jar Binks. Now, this is very unfortunate because Jar Jar is kind of like an ironic purchase for a lot of collectors. I think it's one that a lot of collectors would pick up just because it would look funny or cool in a display. But I do think he carries a lot of nostalgic weight. Whether the prequels are well-received films critically, I think a lot of collectors have a lot of nostalgic connection to them and a nostalgic pull to them because of the memories they have associated with their childhood. That's kind of how I feel. I really love Revenge of the Sith. I don't quite love Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace all that much. I don't think they're really good movies, but I do love certain aspects of them, including Darth Maul, and I really like Jar Binks actually. So this is a figure that I would pick up and add to my collection, and this has been teased quite a while ago, maybe about I think 6 to 8 months ago now, if not longer. It's been a while, and Jar has yet to see the light of day. And I'm just not convinced that this figure is going to be released at this point. I mean, again, maybe Hot Toys feels like this is not going to be one that's going to sell. I actually think it kind of would. I think unironically, it might even sell, and ironically, because it looks like a really cool figure. It's very unique looking. I do wish they would fix that wrist joint, unfortunately. I think there's a better way to handle that. But nonetheless, I mean, it still looks pretty good. Maybe a swappable arm would be good, something along those lines. But I'm starting to get concerned that Jar is not going to ever be produced, because I think Hot Toys has this cemented belief that he's not going to sell. And next up is the Captain America Civil War Crossbones. Now, this one very much looked like a prototype. It looked like it was held together by spirit, sheer will, and determination, because it does look like there's some details that could be improved, like the weathering, the overall applications of the paint, and a lot of the details, I think, on the actual costume. But nonetheless, a lot of collectors got very excited for this one. Captain America Civil War is one of the best MCU films, and a lot of collectors knew that this was really going to be their only opportunity to get a Crossbones. You know his fate in that film, it's not good, and this was a character that collectors were keen to add to their collection. Still, Hot Toys not so keen on producing this boy, just because, again, I guess they felt it wasn't gonna, get them a lot of sales and not gonna be a lot of units produced, and it just wasn't gonna be worth their while. The juice was not worth the squeeze. But I gotta say, this Crossbones figure does look pretty cool. I think a lot of collectors would have been very happy to add this one to their collection. It wouldn't have been for me, but for damn sure, I think this would have looked pretty cool on a display. So you guys know me by now. You know my affinities. You know I am a sequel apologist, and I love the sequel trilogy. That said, I do wish the Hot Toys put into production the Rey from The Force Awakens, the Jakku Rey, and of course the Speeder, which I think would have been a really good addition to this package. I'm guessing that Hot Toys decided this guy was just going to be too big to put on display with this Rey figure, and the Speeder was not going to be something collectors were going to commit to just due to the space concerns, and of course the cost of what this might look like out the door when you got to factor in shipping and the overall size and weight and all that involved with it. And also, again, Force Awakens, very high grossing film, one of the films that I think is the highest domestic film of all time, and one of the highest grossing worldwide films of all time. But the merch was very much overproduced, and it wasn't being purchased by collectors in as much volume as Hot Toys would have thought. So I do think this looks like a really cool piece, though. The Speeder is very detailed. Again, Jazz Inc. always come in clutch, apparently. Apparently made one of these. I do not have any Jazz Inc. products, so I cannot speak to their quality or consistency, but I can say this Hot Toys version would have been cool as shit. Maybe one day for an anniversary, you might get this Rey with Speeder and an updated version, maybe an Artisan Rey. That'd be super cool, but I just don't know that the popularity is there for most collectors to warrant such a figure being produced. Speaking of the sequel trilogy, we have a quarter scale Kylo Ren. Now, guys, look, even for the Kylo Ren haters out there, Kylo Ren was pretty badass. Kylo Ren pulled off some pretty amazing shit. You had a melted Vader helmet, the Pyre Vader helmet, which would have been super cool. You have a really cool display base for quarter scale Kylo Ren. And of course, you'll see you actually have a head sculpt for this guy. This would have been amazing. You could put on the Kylo Ren helmet to make him look Kylo, and you could also put on the Adam Driver head sculpt, which would have been really nice. The detail on this one actually looks improved from the 1/6 scale version. So I think Hot Toys actually did improve on this guy, and I hope that one day they come back to this and decide to make the definitive Kylo Ren in a little bit higher quality for 1/6 scale, and maybe quarter scale if they choose to. I do think an Artisan Kylo could be on the table at some point with some vast improvements. I think that figure does look somewhat dated, although I still love it in my collection. It's my first Hot Toys figure, and I'm always going to be very fond of it. But this Hot Toys Kylo Ren would have been pretty remarkable. In quarter scale, I mean, this guy looks awesome. And next up, we have a really cool piece. This is the TIE Fighter Interceptor, and Hot Toys tends to do this. They show off really cool vehicles at cons that they never intend on releasing, and they get collectors really excited. So maybe we should change our expectations and say, you know what, this is really badass, but Hot Toys clearly is flexing with this piece, and they do not intend on actually releasing it to the public. And I think that's what happened with this TIE Fighter Interceptor. Maybe Hot Toys one day decides, you know what? Fuck it, we're going all in on vehicles, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And due to that, there's a lot of pieces such as the Interceptor here that are just really going to be on Howard Chan's shelf. You're not going to see them in anyone's actual display because they're just too big, and a lot of collectors probably don't have the space to commit to it. So it's a really cool piece. I think it'd be something that I think a lot of collectors, a lot of us would say that we would want, but when it came to the practical concern of where you're actually going to display it in your collection room, that's a harder question to answer because we're not going to be able to figure that one out. So I would say, guys, this Interceptor piece is incredible. Hot Toys is clearly flexing on us, but this ain't coming to anyone's collection anytime soon. So next up on the list is the 1-to-1 life-size The Child Grogu figure in pram. What's super funny is that Hot Toys just announced a new life-size Grogu the day that I've recorded this video, so this one was actually already on the list, but I still maintain, even with that new version, which comes with a bag, a carrying bag, that they're not going to make the version with the pram anytime soon. So I maintain that the life-size Grogu with the pram is not going to be released by Hot Toys anytime in the near future, or at all, really. I don't think it's probably going to happen, but I am glad another life-size version got announced with some upgrades, which is something we'll talk about in various other videos, I'm sure. But nonetheless, the original Hot Toys Grogu is, in my opinion, a very significant disappointment for Hot Toys. Sideshow made a better version, which is never a good look for Hot Toys, who is really seen as the premium creme de la creme of the 1/6 scale collecting community, or really collectible community in general, in terms of lifelike aspects and realism and paint applications. And that original Grogu is just, with the chin splitting and of course the issues with the swappable ears that just don't look realistic. They needed to make a new version, which I'm glad they did. The version with the pram would have been super cool, but you also have to figure out how you're going to display it. Does it come with an acrylic pole? What other sort of setup could Hot Toys come out with that would make it look realistic? Nonetheless, I think a version with the pram would be dope as shit. I would love to purchase that. I think it would look great in a collection space, but I'm not so confident it's going to actually be released at this point. The version with the bag is probably the best we can hope for, but I am happy that Grogu is getting some love in 1-to-1 scale and a much more accurate, realistic depiction of him. So no pram coming to your collection anytime soon. And next up, guys, at number 5, we have the Hot Toys Jedi Starfighter. So this was actually way back that they teased this. They've shown it at various conventions here and there pretty consistently throughout the years, but have never really intended on releasing it, in my opinion. They put it on the coming soon page on Sideshow, but you can see they displayed Anakin Skywalker with R2-D2 in this display case here, and it does take up a significant amount of space, but damn does it look good. You could do so much with this in your display, and I do hope that Hot Toys comes around at some point in terms of making these types of vehicles, because I do think there is a market for it. Again, you got to have the space and the funds to display such a piece, but I think the presence that it's going to offer a collection room is pretty remarkable and very unique. Hot Toys makes these purely to flex, as I mentioned, but the amount of detail in this Starfighter I think is pretty awesome. And what you could do with Anakin and R2, I think would make for a really dynamic, immersive display. So again, I do hope Hot Toys decides to make this, but I have my extreme doubts about it. They only really seem to want to make vehicles, cars, but not actual spaceships. I think these, again, are flex pieces to get people's attention, to get maybe non-collectors at least researching and Googling Hot Toys, but they don't really ever intend on bringing them to your house. Nonetheless, dope piece. Never gonna see it. And at number 4, we have the Hot Toys Millennium Falcon cockpit. Now this is a kind of small piece, but a very intricate and cool one. Again, this is a presence commanding display here. Look at all the light up functions. Look at Han and Chewie fitting in there seamlessly. Again, this is the cockpit that is the iconic cockpit, the iconic ship in Star Wars Millennium Falcon. And I think this would be one that a lot of collectors would be interested in. But again, Hot Toys really has no interest in creating these type of dioramas or ships or any sort of display such as that. So maybe other companies step up and make these type of things. Again, Jazz Inc., you know, that type of thing does exist. But Hot Toys does not seem too keen on producing these type of collectibles to have collectors display these in their display rooms. But nonetheless, we can dream, right? At the end of the day, we do have to remain practical and realistic and say, you know what? This is probably not going to be made. It looks great. Not going to be made though. At number 3, we have the Hot Toys Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. And this is one that I've actually 180'd on a little bit. For a while, I thought this was definitely going to be produced. We have the, again, Jazz Inc. Scavenger figure, and Hot Toys put out a teaser for this figure and showed it at various cons, and I thought there's no way that they don't actually put this figure out at this point. They teased it a couple different times on social media, actually, and they never actually put a pre-order up. I'm not sure if something happened with the license for Michael Keaton's likeness. Maybe with the wings, it was too expensive to produce. Maybe it was fragile. Maybe it was not going to withhold, the pressure that was put on it just due to the practicality of those wings. I don't know. At the end of the day, at this point, I don't think this figure is getting made. I think this ship has already sailed, and I don't think you're gonna find this guy on pre-order anytime soon. I think it would have been kind of expensive. I think they're worried about collectors not ponying up the cash, what it would take to actually get this figure. But nonetheless, looks great. Another Hot Toys flex piece, but not going up for sale anytime soon. And next up, we have the Hot Toys N1 Starfighter, the Mando's new ship after the Razor Crest. And I thought this was actually going to be made for quite a while, actually. I thought Mandalorian is too popular. There's no way Hot Toys is going to show this thing multiple times and then never put it into production. And boy, was I wrong. At this point, it's clear this ship is not being made. It would be massive. The electronics are pretty significant and substantial. And maybe Hot Toys thought this is just going to be too expensive for most collectors to pony up the cash and require too much space. And we're just worried about the R&D involved with the overall cost and how much profit and revenue we're actually going to gain when we put this thing on sale. I love that Grogu fits in the top of the ship there. That's awesome. It's a nice little detail. The light up functions look great. I love the paint applications on this. I think this could have been one that probably felt a bit cheap in hand, but looks really high quality on display. This is massive though. A 1/6 scale version of the Starfighter is huge. The Razor Crest would have been even bigger, obviously. So this would have required a lot of dedicated space and of course funds, like I mentioned, but it would have looked really good, especially if you put figures standing next to it, whether you put Mando sitting in or standing outside next to the ship. I think it would have looked really amazing. So I am very sad this one didn't get produced because I think I would have tried to find a way to fit this in my collection room. But at this point, this thing is gone. I think Hot Toys clearly made the determination already that it's not worth producing, and that's where we are. And at number 1, those who know me are going to be very unsurprised. We have the Hot Toys Corvus Glaive from Avengers Infinity War. Now, I love the Black Order. I love all members of the Black Order, and I would have been absolutely thrilled had they put Corvus Glaive into production. I think it's very clear at this point that Hot Toys has no interest in making the Black Order, at least right now. I do think for maybe an eventual anniversary, they could consider it, but I'm starting to lose hope altogether because this is a really cool figure and Avengers Infinity War is one of the best films ever made, in my opinion. And Corvus Glaive looks awesome. This would have been a figure I think that would have had a lot of presence on a shelf, but at the end of the day, Hot Toys is not keen on making this type of supporting character, it seems like. And they just have too many other priorities coming down the pipeline, particularly with Avengers Doomsday coming up. You're going to have Secret Wars eventually. There's going to be a lot of figures to produce, and Corvus Glaive is probably not on their radar at this point in time. I would love to see Proxima Midnight first, then I would see Corvus Glaive, and then Ebony Maw and Call Obsidian. I would get all 4 of those. Even if they made them limited exclusives, I would find a way to get them. But Corvus Glaive, doesn't sound like this guy's going to be made anytime soon, but man, the detail is pretty awesome on it. I wish I could bring this to my display, but Hot Toys said, you know what? We're going to tease you with this one, but never follow through in true Hot Toys fashion. And that's that, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. And hopefully you enjoyed this walk down memory lane, this traumatic walk down memory lane, where we explored Hot Toys' best unkept promises. So a lot of these figures, these ships, these vehicles are absolute works of art, the dioramas as well. And Hot Toys has decided for whatever reason, they don't make business sense to produce. So here we are just marveling at them, hoping that one day you'll see a pre-order button next to their name, but it's very unlikely at this point in time. So guys, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to click the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any content when it goes live here. If there are any other graveyard figures that you want to talk about, drop them in the comments below. Which are your favorites on this list or even off this list? Let me know what you would like to see from Hot Toys in the future, how your collection is going. But I'm really interested to see if there are other figures that have been teased and not produced that I should have included on this list. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you guys so much. There's plenty of other content on this channel to check out, so do take a look around. And if you have any questions, let me know. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.